Good morning, and welcome to Issues That Matter. I'm the host, Robert Piccone, and I'm honored to have a guest today, Elizabeth Jordan, who is running for state representative for the Kennebunkport areas and other areas, but you can get into that when the time comes. I'm honored and pleased, very pleased, to have the show back and to be back on TV. And I look forward to it, and I look forward to the future, and I look forward to chatting with Elizabeth right now. Elizabeth, welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me here.
My pleasure, my pleasure. Now, how long have you thought about running for state rep?
My thoughts about running occurred in February when I realized that we had no Republican to go up against the Democrat who's currently in that seat.
Okay.
So it's been very recent. I had no intention of doing this until I realized the seat was empty.
I can well imagine the difficulty of trying to decide whether you want to get involved in politics, because politics can be a brutal arena.
Absolutely.
How have you found it so far?
I've found it mostly very supportive and fun, actually. I didn't expect it to be so. I'm very much a quiet and introverted person, and this is not my strength as far as wanting to be out there all the time, but I'm finding I enjoy it. I'm enjoying meeting people. I'm enjoying knocking on doors. I love the support of my committee and the Republicans at the convention last weekend, and just meeting wonderful, like-minded people.
And how long had you thought about getting into politics earlier?
I had never considered it for myself. I had taken candidate training courses. I'd taken different things along the way to learn about politics and to become more involved, but I saw myself as more of a supporter of a good candidate. That's where I pictured myself, to be a supporter of a good candidate, to go around, to drive them, to knock doors, to write letters to the editor, and that's what I'd always done in the past in my political things that I did.
Are you running for state representative?
I'm running for state representative for House District 134, which is all of Kennebunkport. It's coastal Kennebunk and coastal Biddeford.
Okay. And what do you see taking place in government, I'll say state government, these days that piques your interest, you might say, or piques your dislikes?
Well, just to go back a few years, I have just moved back to Maine 5 years ago in September. I had been the last 40 years in Virginia, though I grew up in Maine, grew up in Bangor. My father was moved when I was 12 years old. We lived in Virginia, and all of my adult life was in Virginia. But I always had a heart for Maine and always looked at what was happening in Maine. And I was actually following Governor LePage.
Once you live in Maine, it's hard to move out.
That's right. You can take the girl out of Maine, but you can't take Maine out of the girl. That's how it was for me. So I longed to come back. I was married to a Southern gentleman who had no intention of going up here where it was cold. So I enjoyed and loved my life down in Virginia. That's where I started my interest in politics, was in Virginia. But I saw myself always as a supporter, not as somebody who was out front and running for office.
When you look at the political landscape in Maine,
okay, that's
what do you see as the challenges that you will face?
The challenges I will face.
Well, or if we look at it more broadly, what do you see? What are the challenges that the state of Maine faces?
Well, right now, the state of Maine faces the challenge of being democratically run for the last 40 years, because that has run Maine in the wrong direction. As I was saying about Governor LePage, I was following him from Virginia, and I was cheering him on because I saw how he was bringing good things into Maine and bringing businesses back and bringing more sensible laws back, and things were going well when he was governor. And so I got here, and he was still governor, but that year, 2017, 18 was the year that our next governor was elected. So I saw the contrast from then until the next, and seeing things slowly go downhill with regulations, new laws, more restrictions, until we landed in COVID land in 2020, and things went far downhill from there.
When I think back not only to Governor LePage, but think about Governor LePage and think about Donald Trump. Mm-hmm. I see so many aspects that are very similar.
Right.
They were both highly criticized for their, what I would call, forwardness.
Right.
They said what they thought, they said.
Correct.
And in both cases, it worked.
It did. The policies did.
The policies worked. Governor LePage, it made the state more financially solvent and so forth.
Absolutely.
And he did a fine job, and I was honored to have him on as a guest.
Oh.
Up until the time that he was a highlight.
Right.
I brag about it.
Uh-huh.
I had the governor of Maine on as a guest.
Yes.
And the same thing can be said for Donald Trump. I mean, they were so, I would say, similar in many regards.
I agree.
And they both did fabulous jobs in the time that they were in the office. And the fact that they were not elected to get back into office was a sad thing for both the state and the government and the country.
Right. I agree. It's the policies. It's the policies that matter. It's not the personality. We don't have to necessarily like everything a person says or the way they say it.
You're running for rep to...
I would like to see more liberty policies come into place. I want to put Maine first, not everybody coming here from Maine from strange places. I want to see Maine veterans put first. I want to see our Maine fishermen put first. I want to see our Maine residents put first. I'm already knocking doors and finding people can't afford to live. And I meet other widows who don't know how they're going to stay in their home because the taxes are so high. So I'm already meeting people who are very concerned because what we are currently going through with inflation, cost of food, cost of fuel, cost of heating oil, it's unsustainable. And many folks in Maine are of retirement age and living on a fixed income. And I too am in that situation. So I'm in a situation where I'm working part-time. I can only make a certain amount of money because of Social Security restrictions. And so I'm on a fixed income. So I'm right there with all these folks who can no longer afford to put gas in their car, who have to choose between gas and food. It's very challenging, and it is because of poor policies starting in D.C. That's not really what I'm here to talk about. I'm here to talk about Maine, but it's here in Maine too, and these Democrat policies just are not workable.
I would certainly agree with you. But I have to be nonpartisan as much as possible, which I find rather challenging from time to time. But in any event, I feel you. I feel for you. It's tough. It's very difficult, and the state would be much better off having more people who think along your lines to bolster the movement to change things.
Right. Thank you. I agree. I would like to see us turn the State House red and get our governorship back with Governor LePage and get some work done. And the way I feel about it is I don't want to go in to be a lawmaker to make more laws. I want to repeal. I want to tear down some laws that have been put in place that have acted.
You want to clean it up.
Right, absolutely.
You want to tear down what needs to be torn down and build what needs to be built.
That's right. Not make more laws, though. Not make more laws.
It's okay to make more laws if they make sense.
Right, true. Right.
You know, but to pass a law for the sake of passing a law, no, that doesn't work well.
We see too much of that.
Yes. And you're right. There's been too much of that. Mm-hmm. And I envision you passing things that would be helpful to the many.
That would be my intent. My heart is here with Maine people. I came back after 40 years away. I came back to Maine after losing my husband, and I knew it was going to be where I needed to come and heal. And it has been, because Maine is a beautiful state. And I love everything about it. I love being out in all four seasons. I love all of it, and I love the Maine people, and God has put into my heart a heart for Maine people.
Where do you see the challenges? I mean, you're going to be up against...
Right. Well, we have challenges. We have an elderly population here in Maine, the average age being somewhere in the mid-50s, I believe. That's a challenge. That's going to cause healthcare challenges. That will cause retirement and income challenges. It's hard to keep families here because the taxes are too high and the jobs are too few for the children and grandchildren. So those are challenges. There's all kinds of challenges. There's problems with housing. I see it down where I am in Cape Porpoise. I'm blessed to be in an apartment where I am right in the heart of Cape Porpoise, a beautiful town. I have a wonderful landlord who takes care of everything, and my rent is manageable. But so many people, and myself included, I had a tough time finding a year-round rental here in coastal Maine. It's almost impossible because of the way they can rent. People can rent out a place for 3 months of the year and make as much as they can make for the full year.
Yeah.
So there are many challenges, and I don't know the answers to all of them, but I know how to seek out people, and I know there's a lot of good people around me. I'm already meeting them, people that are mentoring me here in my candidacy who have a lot of answers. And I am a person of integrity and am not going to go to Augusta and change who I am. So that's a big challenge for many people who are politicians, which I'm not one.
But there are some nice politicians.
There are, absolutely.
There are a lot of nice politicians.
I have several of them mentoring me.
They just don't get the opportunity to show their niceness too often.
Right, right.
But I've spent my share of time up in Augusta. With my work that I've done with the MS Society.
Oh, very nice.
And it's always a challenge. But you meet interesting people. And you're one of them. But you're not in Augusta yet, but you will be.
No, thank you.
And I hope to see you up in Augusta.
Thank you. It would be wonderful.
Because I could, we've already mentioned Stedman Seavey.
Yes.
He and I got pretty close, and he was very, very, very helpful in getting some legislation through on behalf of the MS Society.
Oh.
And it was a groundbreaker.
Wow.
Right.
That's nice to hear.
And I will have another friend in Augusta.
There you go. Yes, sir.
And I already have a friend in the church that I attend.
That's right. That's where we met.
Village
Baptist.
Village Baptist Church. My memory is bad.
That's okay.
The only thing worse than my memory is my walking ability.
No. No, you're doing great.
I'll get through that.
Yeah.
So, what would be the first thing you want to take on as a challenge?
I would want to take on a repeal of some of the bad laws that have passed in these last 2 years.
Such as?
Such as 2003, LD 2003, which is allowing zoning and land use to change, and actually, rather than the town being involved in the land use decisions, it's going to be dictated out of Augusta as to who can build on what lot, and it takes the decision-making out of the town and into Augusta. And I believe in small government. I don't want any government dictating to me. Town government, fine. We stay in the town. Let's keep it local in those town planners. These folks know best who are in the towns. I don't want to be dictated to by Augusta and have housing built in my backyard without my permission because they think it makes equity happen. There's a lot of things like that, a lot of poor decisions that are impacting us that many, many people don't even have any idea about. That's just one. That's just one recent one that I've been conferring about.
Can you name any more?
Well, let's see. I know they've been trying to push through the Equal Rights Amendment for 30 years now, and that's still a push on the Democrat side that they would like to get through. I don't want to see that happen because that will remove our religious liberty. That will put pastors under arrest who speak biblically about certain things. So that is a concern of something we need to keep out. I am not in favor of spending taxpayer money on abortions. And that is something that we are currently doing. That's highly offensive to me as a citizen. I do not approve or consent of my tax dollars going to fund Planned Parenthood. So that's a concern to me. I'd like to see that removed.
Good. Very good.
Thank you.
And I'm very happy to see that you're so active in it.
I am and have been.
Speaking for myself, if I have the opportunity to vote for you, I'll take that opportunity.
Aw, thank you so much, Robert.
For whatever good my one vote will do.
Well, it does. It makes a difference. Thank you.
Okay, no, not a problem, not an issue at all. What do you think about charter schools?
I like the idea of charter schools. I like the idea of the money following the children instead of going to the public schools necessarily. I like the idea of some accountability in the public schools. I am for the idea of parental consent and parents knowing exactly what's being taught in their children's schools. I don't like any kind of secrecy. I don't like to see administrators. I don't want to say anything. I love teachers. Let me just say that right now. And I am in favor of teachers. Most teachers are wonderful people. And of course, we appreciate what they do, taking care of our kids through the day. So this is not a criticism against teachers, but against some of the policies that are sneaking in the back door and being taught to our children to confuse them, to get away from the basics of reading, writing, and arithmetic. Those are the things that concern me. And the secrecy, and also the tendency of the school boards to call parents who come in and speak, they call them terrorists. That's a big concern to me. That should not be happening. There should be a flow of communication between the school and the parents.
Have the federal government injecting itself
Right.
into local school board business.
Exactly.
That's tough.
Right.
And that should not happen.
No, it should not. So I believe in less government overall. Federal government should not be involved in our main schools. I'd like to see the size of the government shrink, and the people. We are the people, and we are the ones that have the power, and we need to take that and live our lives freely, and not be dictated to by someone in government.
We won't mention any names right now.
No.
Well, I look forward to the opportunity of having you as a representative, and I'll be living in your district.
Yes. Oh, thank you.
And I'm not done talking to you right now.
Okay.
Where do you see the state going
Well,
economically? What kind of path do you see the state being on right now?
right now we're on a path to destruction because inflation keeps going up, costs keep going up, everything is rising. People cannot sustain that. They're dipping into their savings. They're going into credit card debt. The direction right now is a downward direction.
Would that be a state issue, or would that be more of a federal issue?
It's both. It's both. It starts with the Keystone Pipeline and the shutoff of that. That was the start of the gas prices increasing, the inflation. Gas prices increase, everything increases because everything's impacted by.
And that amazes me that people don't recognize that.
Right.
The reason gas prices were very, very low with the previous presidential administration, and the current presidential administration predicted and promised that they would shut the pipeline down.
Right.
Well, for whose benefit?
Right.
And everybody's paying the price for it.
We all are. And it impacts our food, our clothing, our vacations or lack of thereof.
It impacts the entire
impacts
life.
everything. Everything.
But I could see where it would be a massive challenge to try and turn that around, even at the level of state representative.
Right.
Minimal impact.
There's very little we can do for the federal, but we can make changes here in the state. And we had one representative who put through a bill, or tried to relieve Mainers of the gas tax at the pump for a limited amount of time, for a little while, so we could all kind of catch up. The Democrats turned it down.
Me, I think back, and this goes back some years now, where there used to be a sign on the gas pump that said the cost of the gas and the cost of the taxes.
Did it really? There was a
Yes.
Oh, they hide that now.
Oh, yes, they did. Gee, I wonder why. And this happened, in all fairness, this happened long before our current administration.
Right.
At the state level.
Right.
Became involved.
Right.
But it does strike me that, yes, at one time, you saw how much went towards the gas, how much went towards the taxes. Now, it's all hidden.
Right. And now, Maine is the third highest tax state in the nation. 3 out of 50. We have New York's a little bit ahead of us, Hawaii's a little ahead of us, and Maine. We are the highest tax state. Now that can be altered on a state level. That's something legislators can work on. Property taxes, everything is taxed. And then after you're taxed, you get taxed some more, right? Social Security, yeah.
Taxes take a significant part of any household income.
Absolutely.
And they're ever increasing.
They are, and they're sneaky in the foods, and of course I guess we don't have a food tax here, but everything incidental to food is taxed.
You know, one of the things that amazes me is the number of people that say what a terrible job Donald Trump did as president.
Right.
When in reality, if you look at the numbers,
right,
Donald Trump had a fabulous presidency.
He did. The numbers tell it, and the conservative policies work, but there's a certain blindness that people have when they can't get past the personality, the tweets, whatever it might be, the mean tweets, right? It's a blindness, and it's a blindness. That's the only way I can see it, is it's a blindness. They don't see because they can't get past that anger.
I think that they're too much influence by media.
Well, no question about it. In the media,
that's got to play the major
no
part.
No question. The media is not fair to conservatives, not at all. Very biased against them, which media is supposed to be neutral, right? That's what I learned when I was coming up through college. Journalism 101. It's the what, where, when.
I think much along the same lines.
How, what, where, when, why, how, those questions, right? Not all of the op-ed stuff thrown in there. Yeah.
Well, it's a challenge, but challenges are meant to be overcome.
That's right.
And you'll overcome them.
Thank you.
And you will get the opportunity.
Oh, thank you for your vote of confidence, Robert.
You've got it.
I appreciate it.
You've got it.
It's been very special to have that from so many people when I just saw myself as someone in the background.
When you get to Augusta, you will have an ally.
Thank you. I know I'll have many. We have many good people. I was at the Republican convention last weekend, and it was just lovely. Wonderful, wonderful people all over the state.
And we need more.
We do. Well, we need them in the House, right?
Right.
Yes. We need them in the House and in the Senate. We've got great Senate candidates running. This is the first year in many, many years that I don't think any Democrat seat is going unopposed in the major elections. And in previous years, we've just let these seats go unopposed. And that's what got me thrown into this, because I said, how do you not have somebody to oppose her? We can't let that happen. That was just unfathomable to me. So that's why I'm here.
Well, and I'm glad you are.
And thank you. And it's a calling from God as well, I must say, because I wouldn't do it if it were not for my faith and my belief in God and His calling on my life. I would have let someone else do it. So it's a call from God, and I think that's...
What would be the first thing you do? You win the election,
right.
You get elected, you take office. What's the first thing you're going to do once you do that?
I don't have a plan for a first thing, but I hope to gather with others who are like-minded and create a plan with the others. I don't have any single thing I want to do besides repeal some bad laws, but...
Such as?
2003 that just passed, that is involving this neighborhood zoning coming out of Augusta. So that's kind of one of the first things on my mind. That should never have passed. And I wrote to my legislator, expressed my interest in that it should not pass. But the Democrats have the votes, and they just take what they want. And I find there's not a lot of listening to constituents. That's what I've found in my 2 years of having this one that I'm going up against. There's not been a lot of listening or feedback.
It just makes me wonder, what do Republicans have that Democrats don't have? What in their train of thought?
Okay. Well, we believe in fiscal responsibility. We believe in accountability. We believe in having integrity and being the same person you are today as you will be in Augusta. conservative principles are what President Trump put into place that brought our gas prices down to $1.86 last time I remember him being in office. Tax relief for the people.
And people knew, people knew that our current president was going to do exactly
Right.
what he ended up doing.
Right.
What he did, so he kept his promise.
Right.
But the promise was to eliminate the pipeline,
Right.
the oil pipeline.
Yeah.
Of course, you're going to see a very big increase in gas price.
Of course.
If you do that.
Right.
But yet people vote for it.
Right. There's very little understanding of economics that I see, and of real economics and how it works, supply and demand.
Back on January 6th, when we had that altercation, and which I think was wrongful to a degree, but it was not as wrongful as they make it out to be.
Absolutely.
It was not a revolution
No.
of any type.
No.
That was never the intent.
No.
People would, and I'll use the word, and I've used the word because I did a write up. I think I put it on Facebook. That people were disenfranchised.
Right. Right.
And that was given as an excuse for people that were burning down buildings,
Exactly.
and burning stores and
Right.
everything else. Oh, they were just disenfranchised.
Right. And
Well,
yet they were let
The
go.
voters were disenfranchised.
Right. Right.
Their most valuable vote,
Right.
and voting is the most valuable thing that a person has in this country, they were voted out.
Right.
They were ignored.
Right.
I can see, I was certainly shocked
Right. Absolutely.
at the outcome. And I thought then, and I still believe, and I watched hours of volunteers talking about all the wrongful things done at the voting booth.
Absolutely.
But nobody pays attention to that.
No, I know. That's right.
And these are people, citizens under oath, saying that these things happen, and everybody just
Ignores
disregards it.
Right. It's very hard to take when there were questionable shenanigans happening that were very obvious. And people do feel disenfranchised, like their vote was stolen.
And as I recollect, when I went to bed on election night, I thought for sure he had it.
Right. Right.
Where did all those hundreds of thousands of votes
Right.
come from?
It's very suspect. I think we need answers about that. I think we need real answers. I don't know that we'll get them.
And how much money is being wasted by their investigation as to the reasons that January 6th ever took place.
Right, right. And yet they won't release 14,000 hours of video about it that would tell the story that's being held back from us.
Yeah.
So there are many questionable things there too. And the media won't present it because the media is not on our side.
No, they're not.
So I'm thankful for a station.
There's one part of the media that is close to being on our side.
Right,
And I think you know I think you know which media that I'm talking about.
Right.
And it's not a wolf.
right. We'll hear a little bit of truth there. Yes.
But this too shall pass.
Yes,
We will get people like you, when they run for office and get elected, they will make things happen.
yes.
I'm confident of it.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I look forward to working with you when you're in office.
Thank you.
And let's see. Well, what would be the first thing you tackle? You win the election, you're in office. What's the first thing you're going to tackle?
I think, as I think a little bit more about that, you asked a little earlier, I think a tax relief of some sort might be in order to get things started for the Maine people, because we are struggling. And as I said earlier, it's unsustainable the way prices of everything are going up. I'm not sure what that would look like in a tax relief, but that would be something I'd want to start working on. And as I said earlier, to repeal some of these bad laws and some terrible regulations that are in place for businesses that keep them from flourishing. I'm very concerned about our lobstermen and the whole right whale issue. I've done a lot of reading about that. It's been going on. One person told me from the 60s they've been trying to get the fishermen out of business, basically, the lobster fishermen, because of their lines that go down to the ocean floor saying the whales are tangled in them. There's never been a whale tangled or hurt in lobstermen's ropes. So that's very concerning to me, and that's not being presented fairly or even truthfully. And I live in Cape Porpoise. I run a lot, and I jog down to the pier, and I'll talk to the fishermen and see how they're doing and what they're feeling like. And many of them are feeling like they're being squeezed out of business because of the cost of what they're having to adapt their boats to doing, and et cetera, for these environmental concerns of the right whale, which are not true, first of all. And secondly, our fishermen love the sea life. They love the right whale. They don't want to tangle a right whale in their nets or their ropes. They don't want that. They're not greedy out there to get as many lobsters as they can. They want to see the ecosystem flourish so that the lobsters can flourish. They have the best interest of their business at heart, just like every business owner has the best interest of the people they serve, because they want them to come back and they want their business to grow. So it makes no sense to put strict regulations on employees, on these minimum wage laws. All of it is restrictive to business and keeps them from growing and even shuts them down. Not to even mention
having people such as yourself running for office is a big plus.
Right.
Now, the key is getting people that are on that sink, you might say, or on that path.
Right.
Getting them elected.
Exactly. And there are many of us. As I said, many grassroots people have risen up. And there were more first-time candidates this year than in the past. I don't even know how many years. They mentioned it at the convention last week. But more new candidates than ever before, because people like me who love their state are stepping up to put her first. I mean, it's my one of my prime points is Maine first. I want to see Maine first. We want to see Maine move forward. So that's our goal, and we're going to work. Another
thing that crossed my mind, not just today, but I go back a few years about this. One of the we got as I think I mentioned earlier, we have an elderly population in the state of Maine, and that elderly population is supported by people, more youthful population, paying taxes.
Right.
And one of the observations I made shortly after I moved to Maine is that we have students who can't find a good job once they graduate.
Right.
So what do they have to do? They have to go out of state.
Right.
So we have. Do you see that?
I do, and it's definitely a concern of many parents and grandparents who see their kids and grandkids have to leave the state for many reasons. Primarily because there's not jobs for them. And that goes back to the fact that corporate taxes are too high here in Maine.
Yep.
I believe they're 35 out of 50, which is not a good place to be. We don't want to be in that middle of a downward, which is what that is. 35 out of 50, so 50 being the worst. I read that statistic, I think, today. So we need to give some tax relief that would encourage businesses to come.
Any ideas as to how we can get I think you just touched on it.
Right. You lower the corporate tax rates, and that encourages people to come. Governor LePage had a very business-friendly state and encouraged businesses to come, and they did come.
And in the long run, will actually increase the revenues.
Well, that's it. That's what's so hard to understand of why you would not want the business to come.
I understand it.
Well, it is, but it seems the other side doesn't understand that. So I'm not sure what that's about, but the other side doesn't understand that we need to have a business-friendly climate. They just keep raising taxes so that people can't come and are not encouraged to come that have businesses and that want to grow their businesses. In places like Amazon and that sort of thing, we need to have companies like that come in.
I agree. One of the things that frustrates me is the fact that you hear President Biden talking about it. He wants to get to the rich. He wants the rich to
Right.
pay their share of
Right.
taxes. He does not recognize the fact that the rich are already paying a heck of a lot of money in
They sure are.
taxes.
Absolutely.
And it's a false
It
false
is.
thing.
It is.
And it frustrates me.
Yes.
And I cannot remember the terminology. And if I keep on trying to think of the terminology, I'll screw something up. So I'm not going to even try. But we have to change the system in a sense.
Right.
Maybe not a massive change, but we have to fine tune it.
Mm-hmm.
And you're the person to do it.
Well, thank you. Conservatism has the answers. It works. It worked when Ronald Reagan was president. It worked when President Trump was president. We see it repeated, but nobody seems to learn the lesson. Maybe some of us do.
Well, it's been a pleasure having you on as a guest.
Thank you.
And
Thank
I
you,
look forward
Robert.
to having you on as a guest in the future
Thank you so
when
much.
you're a state rep.
Well, thank you, Robert.
And if you're not a state rep, I still like having you on as a guest.
Well, thank you.
You're a great guest,
Thank you.
and you have a lot of great ideas.
Thank you. It's been a
And
privilege.
and I have this strong sense that you're the person to make those things happen.
Oh, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Folks, that's a wrap. Have a good day. Bye-bye.